everyone, this is Anna from Realty, and today's video is going to be the first part of my overview of my National 2 road trip. So some of you know that I've recently made the National 2 road trip. I have started on the 20th of May and finished on the 5th of June. So it was 15-16 days, more or less. And for those of you who don't know, Realty is a relocation and investment agency that helps expats move to Portugal in a sustainable and culturally integrating way. And we work in the whole country, and one of the very important things to me is to show that Portugal is not just Lisbon, Porto, and the Algarve. So this road trip was very much about showing that, and also showing the affordability of Portugal, because Portugal is incredibly affordable, and you should definitely consider that if that's something that you would like to get your money going further. Portugal can definitely be a great choice of relocation. So back to today's topic, the EN2 road trip. So this is the EN2 passport. And the EN2 is the longest road in Portugal, and it goes from Chaves until Faro. So Chaves is in the far north of Portugal, while Faro is at the bottom. So Chaves, Faro. And the EN2 is also the third longest continuous road in the world, with 739 kilometers length. And it only loses to the Route 66 in the US, and another road that I think it's in Russia, but I do not remember, which is quite surprising given that Portugal is actually a fairly small country. So this National 2 road being so unique, it goes right through the middle of Portugal, as you can see here. And they created this passport that allows you to stamp your way as you go through the different locations. So in Portugal we have freguesias, that usually translates to parishes. And the National 2 goes over 35 parishes in Portugal, and you can stamp every single one of them. So I'm going to give you an overview of the route I made. I would also like to point out that this road trip, it can be made anywhere as shortly as 1 or 2 days, or as long as a month. I chose to do it in 15 days because I wanted to see a bit of everything and make content and film things and so on. And I also wanted to visit a lot of things, so I prefer to take it slowly. I personally think that if you do it in less than a week, you won't really be enjoying a lot of it, and you won't be able to see a lot of it. But therefore, I do think that the ideal length of trip would be for 10 days plus, and then it's just up to you how peacefully you want to do it. So I had this planning. This is my lovely handwriting. It's not very pretty, sorry. Of the things I wanted to see along my my road trip. So the first place is obviously Chaves. And in Chaves, the first thing I have written here is to withdraw my passport. So I obviously did that. It actually only got done in the second day, because when I arrived a bit later than I hoped. And then once we got to the tourism post office, you know, those times that you just arrive there and you see the person closing and leaving, it was exactly that. So we came back the next day to get it. We actually tried to get it from the tourism point in the museum near the castle, which, by the way, the castle in Chaves, well, it's more of a tower than an actual castle, but they call it castle. But anyway, the passport was sold out. It's actually not sold out because it's free, but they were out of passports in the museum, and so we had to go to the other tourism point to get our passport, and were successful. So we got our passport. And of course, we also got the first stamp on said tourism point, which was this one. So this one was the official stamp that we got on the tourism point. When I stayed on the Hotel Forte de São Francisco, which also put me this stamp. And it was a lovely stay. So another thing that I am trying to do with this is also showcasing how affordable Portugal can be. So I stayed in Chaves for 2 days, and I paid 77 euros per night for a twin plus bedroom. So it was, I got the upgrade. It's not an upgrade, I paid for it, but I got the higher version to get a bit more space. The room was really nice and spacious, and it was a great price for 77 euros. The breakfast was also great. And the only thing, the hotel is recuperation and recovering of an old fort, as the name says. And so I think it was quite well done. And the breakfast was in a different building than the lodging. So you did have to go through a patio that it was raining, by the way. But you also had an underground passageway. So that's the minor inconvenience that makes perfect sense, given that it is an historical location recovery. Those kinds of things, they tend to happen. But overall, it was a very nice stay. The reception people were also really nice. Another highlight of Chaves was the amazing Roman hot springs that were just something else. And for those of you who followed on Instagram, and also I had already released the videos of Chaves where you can see these things in a bit more detail, but it was amazing. And we obviously got to the 0 mile, so the start of this road. There's a mark there, and it's completely full of stickers, because it's a thing where it's the national road to, it's very, very popular, especially for motor clubs. And it's a thing to kind of do that along with the group and so on and so forth. And people like to leave stickers along the way. So obviously the 0 point is particularly popular, and it was so full of stickers that at first I didn't even find the place where it said 0 mile. I only realized that it was on the other side after, and took another picture, but then the pictures I took with it were to a different side because it was so completely full of stickers. Even on the road signs, like it was in a roundabout, and you had signs on the roundabout, and the back of the signs were completely full of stickers too. So that was kind of a funny thing. So back to my things to do in Chaves that I had here. So it was the picture on the 0 mile, which I also got to take. I also bought the guide, the EN2 guide, that I don't have right here with me because my mother took it to Porto, but it was very useful along the way to compare things that I may or may not miss and along the way. Then we also went to the Contemporary Art Museum, to the castle, to the main churches, the Roman bridge, the main shopping street, the Roman hot springs. And we also went to the modern hot springs, which was also nice. And then at last we got our pastel chaves. So pastel chaves is a typical pastry, a salty one from Chaves, where it's basically puff pastry filled with meat. We got it from one of the most known places that actually was recommended to me by a friend who lives in Chaves. And it's really, really buttery, that place, but it's the tastiest one. My mother tasted it in the hotel in another shop that weren't as buttery, but she said the one in the castle was tastier. So there's the note. So then at the exit of Chaves, we went to the Vidago Palace that had this really awesome stamp. And the Vidago Palace, it's a recovery of a palace, obviously. It has a beautiful gardens. We also had lunch there. And it also has a golf course. It's overall a very beautiful place. So after this, we went to the Termas and Jardins de Pedras Salgadas. So once again, these hot springs. And something to note, in Chaves, the natural hot springs, they come up at 64 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. But in Vidago and Pedras Salgadas, there are also natural hot springs. These ones do not come hot, but they come bubbly. So it's quite interesting. And we tried the water from the hot springs on the original points and everything. So that was really cool. And then, like I said, the next one after Vidago was Pedras Salgadas. We have this very popular carbonated water that is Água das Pedras. And Água das Pedras comes from Pedras Salgadas. In Pedras Salgadas there are 5 hot springs and the bottled water is made combining the 5 of them. But apparently each one of them have different properties. And we only tried from one, but the fountain was really cool. It was bubbly. The fountain itself was bubbly, so it was really cool. Then there's a park and also a whole hotel in Pedras Salgadas with some fancy bungalow houses. It was a bit weird because they have this fancy bungalow house, modern houses, and then they have a bunch of abandoned older properties. So it was kind of a weird contrast. I have no idea why that is, but either way. So Pedras Salgadas is also a district, and as you can see here, I got the Pedras Salgadas stamp, and then I got another stamp in Vila Pouca de Guiar, which is the district that Pedras Salgadas belongs to. And it's also on my list. I actually had Lagoa do Alvão on my list to visit too, but I missed it. Things took a bit longer, and I actually did a call on while I was in Pedras Salgadas, so I wasn't able to go to Lagoa do Alvão, neither to Castelo Roqueira da Guiara Pena, which is a ruin of a castle after Vila Pouca de Guiar. So we missed those two. I have here my notes and they are like crossed out. So the next place we stopped was Vila Real. Vila Real is the next big city on this route. And we also stayed 2 days because once again I wanted to make a video about the city. This video was also already published, and so you can take a look at it to see more details about the city. We stayed at a hotel on the outskirts that is actually in the EN2, but this one honestly was a bit disappointing. We paid 100 euros per night, and I did have a goal for this trip to pay 100 euros or less for lodging in order to showcase the affordability and quality that you can have here in Portugal. This one was just on the limit, as I did pay exactly 100 euros per night. It was a fairly recent hotel. From what I understood, I think it is only 2 years, but the hotel rooms were terribly planned. They weren't very practical or spacious, and that did take out a lot from the experience. And then the breakfast was okay. From what the receptionist told me, the hotel belonged to a baker, so they had really nice pastry goods, but not a lot of salty options. So that is overall, this hotel was the one that I would rate lowest throughout my whole trip. But either way, we did go explore Vila Real. It was my first time in Vila Real. I had never been there before. It is a city in the middle of mountains just before you reach the area of Douro. and it's still a not very known city, so it's still fairly affordable when it comes to prices. It's just about an hour drive from Porto too, so it can be very interesting. But either way, you can see all of that on my video about the city itself. And in Vila Real, here on my notes, I had to see the Vila Velha, which then I understood was actually about the area where the city was originally in, but then the city started expanding to other locations that were more practical from a living perspective, because the city was initially built from a military perspective and about being the most defensible possible, staying in top of a hill between two mountains and rivers with valleys. So although that was very good from a military perspective, it wasn't very practical for living, and the old town ended up being almost abandoned. Either way, we did go and check. We even went to the museum that explained the story about Vila Velha. We went to check the numerous noble houses that you can find throughout the city. We also went to the Palácio de Mateus, which is a palace with the vineyards and some very beautiful gardens in Vila Real. We did go by the Parque Natural de Alvão, and I took a few videos and pictures of it, but we didn't go inside of it. We did go inside the city park in Vila Real itself. And then this was all the things that I had here for Vila Real. We ate very well, that's another thing to mention. In these two locations, I think the most expensive meal we had was 16 euros. We paid 14 euros on the first day in Chaves, then about the same, like 15 or 16 in Vila Real, and we ate really, really well. So you eat very, very well and very cheaply here in the north. And then at the exit of Vila Real is where you start to enter what we call the Alto Douro Vinheteiro. And the Alto Douro Vinheteiro is one of the most scenic locations in Portugal. It's just gorgeous. And the road does go through the mountain roads along the Douro River. So this is the most scenic part of the route. And I forgot to show you the stamps that I got in Vila Real. So this one is from the hotel, this one is from the firefighters, this one is from the Mateus Palace, and these two are from the museums that we went to. So, during throughout the Alto Douro Vinheteiro, before we get to Peso de Régua, which is the next location, we did stamp in Santa Maria de Penaguião, that is kind of the middle of Alto Douro Vinheteiro. And we just stopped to get a stamp. And then the next stop was Peso de Régua, where we went to see the Douro Museum, which was quite interesting. So here in my notes at the exit of Vila Real, I have the Douro Vinheteiro, which is just the landscape that is gorgeous. And then I have the 100-kilometer mark that we did go by, but I couldn't take a picture because it was in a really bad place and we were by car and we couldn't just stop in the middle of a turn. So it was literally in the middle of a turn. So we did go by it. We also went by the highest point in the EN2, although we didn't notice exactly where it is because it's not marked. It was on my notes. We went by the Sanctuary of Nossa Senhora dos Remédios, which is in the exit 2, and then we went to the Museu do Douro, which is where we got our next stamp. And the Museu do Douro is quite interesting, explaining how wine is made and the stories of winemaking in Porto and in the Douro Valley itself. So we just stopped there and we had lunch there. We also ate quite well in a typical restaurant. I think that one was about 20 euros, but all of that is in my stories. And then we exited after we had lunch And the next stop was Lamego, where we had these two stamps. This one is from the museum, and this one was for a place we had a snack in. So Lamego is once again a city in the Douro Valley. It is, I did stay in Vila Real because I wanted to film the city from an affordability perspective, but from a touristic perspective, Lamego and Pilsa da Régua are much more scenic and touristic. And as Alto Douro, Vinheteiro cities, locations, they are highly demanded, and it's actually a very expensive location. You have a bunch of very high-end hotels around this area too, so if that's something that you would be looking for, it's definitely a place worth stopping by. But we just went to visit. In Lamego, we also wanted to go to the castle, and we got there at like 6 p.m. in 5 minutes, and turns out they closed the gate at 6 p.m. So I just filmed a bit of the landscape around it. I think that was a theme throughout this thing. We just would reach places and they would be closing. And then I think we underestimated a bit the time that it would take to get from Lamego to Viseu, because we just were super calmly in Lamego thinking that we had time. And then we reached Viseu, it was past 8 p.m. So that wasn't great. And because of that, I also missed a stamp. So we have here Castro Daire that we just stamped along the way on a gas station. And then São Pedro do Sul, there's actually only a really small part of the parish that is on the road. And because of that, we missed it, and the only place that we would be able to stamp was closed at the time. So I missed this stamp, and I'm not happy about it because I'm a perfectionist. But, oh well, here we are. Even though it's a really small country, it really does have a lot to offer. So I hope you stay tuned for the part 2 where I go over the rest of the trip. And I would love to hear your comments about the trip so far, and if you've done it, your own experiences. So I hope this was helpful. As you know, we release videos every week with useful information, so please do subscribe. And if you want to reach out directly to us, if you are considering coming to Portugal and think that our service can be a good solution for you, feel free to reach out at contact.savecatrrealty.com, or just check out our website in www.savecatrrealty.com, where we explain all of our services very transparently. So see you all next week, and looking forward. Bye.